Mr. Krabs dying would only affect the Krusty Krab, right? Bikini Bottom would mourn, maybe hold a funeral, and then move on. But the moment he's gone, everything changes. Because he doesn't just die, he takes the soul of Bikini Bottom with him. The biggest problem is not who takes over the restaurant. It is something else, which leads to a disaster. Without Mr. Krabs, the town's money stops flowing the way it used to. And the investigation into Mr. Krabs' death leads to a shocking discovery. You cannot guess who uncovers the actual truth, and once the truth is revealed, Bikini Bottom might never recover. Bikini Bottom wakes up to something it never expected. The news spreads like wildfire, whispered from fish to fish, flashing across TV screens, echoing through the streets. Mr. Krabs is dead. Inside the Krusty Krab, the once bustling restaurant is eerily silent. The cash register is untouched, the grill is cold, and there, behind the counter, lies Mr. Krabs, lifeless. The details are foggy. No one knows what happened. An accident? A robbery gone wrong? Something worse. SpongeBob, the first to arrive, stands frozen in the doorway. His breathing is shallow and his hands are trembling. His world, his entire purpose, has just shattered before his eyes. He lets out a wail that shakes through the very foundation of the Krusty Krab. Squidward stands behind him, arms crossed, unusually quiet, his expression unreadable. Pearl arrives moments later. The second she sees her father's lifeless body, she collapses, sobbing. But there's no time to grieve. Within hours, the Bikini Bottom police arrive, sealing off the restaurant. An official statement is released. The cause of death is unknown. The investigation is ongoing. But that doesn't stop the rumors, and one name rises above all others. Yeah, obviously it would be Plankton, because if there was one creature in all of Bikini Bottom who had every reason to want Mr. Krabs gone, it was him. But the investigation reveals something else. Something that might make you think if Plankton was Mr. Krabs' biggest enemy at all. Even SpongeBob has a different opinion about Plankton this time. By the next morning, Bikini Bottom is buzzing with speculation. Everyone wants to know who did it. The police cordon off the Krusty Krab, treating it like a full-blown crime scene. Officers question employees, customers, anyone who might have seen something. But no one knows anything. At least, that's what they say. Plankton is arrested first. But something eerily interesting happens. Plankton doesn't resist. He doesn't argue. He just sighs as the officers drag him out of the chum bucket, mumbling, "Of course, it's always me." The evidence against him is obvious. He spent his entire life trying to destroy Mr. Krabs. He's tried stealing from him, sabotaging him. I mean, he's even tried killing him. If anyone had a motive, it was him. And yet, something is off. When SpongeBob hears the news, he rushes to the police station, eyes still red from crying. Plankton wouldn't do this, he insists. The officers scoff. Are you seriously defending him? But Plankton, sitting in the interrogation room, doesn't look like a mastermind celebrating his victory. He looks hollow, tired, defeated. "You think I did this?" he mutters. "I wanted to beat Krabs. I wanted to win, but not like this." As we saw in the episode Friend or Foe, Mr. Krabs was his best friend before their rivalry started.
There was a time when Plankton and I were best friends.
Plankton wanted to beat him in business, but he didn't want to kill Mr. Krabs. But if Plankton didn't do it, then who did? And more importantly, why? The case isn't closed. It's only just beginning. Meanwhile, Mr. Krabs' restaurant, his legacy, is falling apart. Its doors remain open, but barely. Customers hesitate before stepping inside, as if the very air carries the weight of Mr. Krabs' absence. The sizzling grill, once the source of endless joy, now crackles in an empty, hollow way. The walls feel colder, the floors dustier. Pearl, forced into ownership overnight, doesn't know what to do. She never wanted the Krusty Krab. To her, it was her dad's obsession, not hers. She stands behind the register, staring at the place like it's a relic, like it doesn't belong to her. And maybe it doesn't. But then, something shocking happens. It turns out, without Mr. Krabs, people's loyalty to the Krusty Krab was just nostalgia. Squidward quits. He doesn't even think twice. For the first time in his life, he's free. And that leaves only one person to hold the Krusty Krab together, SpongeBob. In his mind, as long as he's flipping patties, Mr. Krabs isn't really gone. So he tries to do everything himself, cooking, cleaning, taking orders, scrubbing the floors, even helping Pearl with the finances. But it isn't enough. You might think that the Krusty Krab is dying because SpongeBob and Pearl are doing something wrong. They are, but not in a way you think. They are apparently doing everything right, but the food doesn't taste tastes the same. SpongeBob makes every Krabby Patty exactly the way Mr. Krabs taught him, but they lack something. Turns out there is still something that SpongeBob doesn't know about the secret formula, but SpongeBob is sure that Mr. Krabs would have left a clue for him, because if there isn't a clue, then SpongeBob has already lost. SpongeBob starts hallucinating. He talks to himself, sometimes even to Mr. Krabs. But everything changes one night. It happens late at night, long after the Krusty Krab has closed. He stands alone in the empty restaurant, staring at the cash register. He remembers that Mr. Krabs used to love this cash register, and it was full of cash when his beloved boss was alive. Suddenly, he hears it, a voice gruff and familiar. "Don't let Plankton win, boy." SpongeBob whirls around. There's no one there. He backs up, heart pounding. The walls suddenly feel closer, the kitchen darker. He grips the spatula in his hands like a weapon. The air is thick, like the whole restaurant is watching him. And then from the office, he hears it again. "Don't let Plankton win." But Plankton is in jail. Why would the voice tell SpongeBob to not let Plankton win? His feet move before his brain catches up. He pushes open the door to Mr. Krabs' office, his breath shallow, his hands shaking. The room is untouched. A notepad, an old coffee mug. There he is. Not Mr. Krabs. The Flying Dutchman is mimicking Mr. Krabs' voice. Why would he do that? Because Mr. Krabs told him a secret that no one else knew. He pointed toward a safe and then disappeared without saying anything to SpongeBob. It's never been opened, not once. Mr. Krabs always said it contained business secrets. But Mr. Krabs is gone now, and SpongeBob needs answers. With trembling hands, he kneels in front of the safe. His fingers brush against the cold metal, and for a second, he hesitates. This feels wrong, like he's disturbing something sacred, but then he hears the voice again, clearer this time. "Don't let Plankton win." And that's when he sees it. A small folded note tucked beneath the safe's handle. His breath catches in his throat as he pulls it free. The paper is old, yellowed at the edges. His fingers shake as he unfolds it. One sentence scrawled in Mr. Krabs' handwriting. "If anything happens to me, don't trust anyone." SpongeBob's stomach drops. Not anyone, not Plankton, not Pearl, not Squidward. What did Mr. Krabs know? And more importantly, what was he trying to warn SpongeBob about? This isn't just about keeping the Krusty Krab alive anymore. This is about finding out the truth. SpongeBob bursts out of the office, gripping the note like a lifeline. He needs answers. And if there's one person who always wanted to destroy the Krusty Krab, it's Plankton. SpongeBob arrives at the jail to talk to Plankton. Inside, Plankton doesn't look like a man who just won. He looks like he's already lost. Plankton barely looks up. "You also think I did it. Something isn't right." Plankton isn't fighting back. He isn't denying it, but he isn't admitting it either. This means he knows something that could lead to the killer. He actually does. But then SpongeBob notices something he missed before. The chum bucket is closed. Plankton ordered Karen to shut down his own restaurant. That's when it clicks. If Plankton really killed Mr. Krabs, he'd be celebrating. SpongeBob turns to leave, his mind racing. He has to find out who really killed Mr. Krabs. But before he reaches the door, a voice stops him. "I saw something," Plankton says quietly. SpongeBob freezes. Plankton doesn't look at him, but his hands tighten into fists. "The night Mr. Krabs died, I saw someone leave the Krusty Krab. Someone who shouldn't have been there." SpongeBob turns slowly. His heart is hammering in his chest. Who? Plankton finally meets his eyes. Squidward. But Squidward wouldn't kill Mr. Krabs, would he? SpongeBob doesn't wait for another word. He runs back to Squidward's house, back to the only person left who might have the answers. And when he gets there, Squidward is packing his bags. SpongeBob bursts in, out of breath, hands shaking. "You're leaving?" Squidward doesn't turn around. "Yeah, figured I'd go somewhere normal for once. Maybe a place where people don't sing about flipping burgers all day." SpongeBob's voice cracks. "Plankton said he saw you leaving the Krusty Krab the night Mr. Krabs died." Squidward's hands freeze over his suitcase. For a long time, he doesn't say anything. Then, slowly, he turns, and the look in his eyes tells SpongeBob everything. Meanwhile, Karen knew that Plankton was innocent, and she had had enough. She told cops everything since Plankton had told her that he saw Squidward leaving the Krusty Krab that night. Squidward is arrested, but turns out he isn't the killer either. To prove his innocence, he promises to reveal the actual killer, but he has a condition. He wants protection, but from who? Finally, he tells the truth. It wasn't Plankton or him. It was a debt collector, a loan shark. the kind that doesn't take no for an answer. If you remember the episode Le Big Switch, Mr. Krabs took out massive loans from loan sharks. Turns out some of those loans were still unpaid and the interest kept compounding. Mr. Krabs had been failing to pay the monthly loan payments, and the loan shark wasn't having it. Squidward saw the loan shark that night, standing in the shadows of the Krusty Krab. He saw him leave, and when he went inside, Mr. Krabs was already gone. Why didn't Squidward inform the authorities? Well, he was scared. Even the officers hesitate at first. Plankton was an easy villain, an easy answer, but SpongeBob isn't afraid because he knows there's someone stronger who will come to help him. Now he only has one goal left. He's going to find that loan shark, and he's going to make him pay. It doesn't take long. The loan shark isn't hiding. He isn't scared. But then, SpongeBob shows up. Along with SpongeBob are two heroes who had been helping him throughout. Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy defeats the loan shark. When the police arrive, the loan shark doesn't even deny it. He laughs, shrugs, says it was just business. SpongeBob doesn't hear the rest, because his fight isn't over yet. As the officers drag the loan shark away, SpongeBob walks away too. Back to the Krusty Krab, back to the real fight. Pearl has made up her mind. She's selling the restaurant. Bikini Bottom will never taste a Krabby Patty again. And this time, SpongeBob can't stop it, or so he thinks. But when he returns to the office, he sees something. The safe, still closed, still locked. He enters Mr. Krabs' old passcode. The door creaks open. Inside is money. A backup fund, enough to buy the Krusty Krab. And then, slowly, he smiles. Because the Krusty Krab isn't dead yet. Tomorrow, it's coming back to life. The next day, the doors aren't locked. The sign doesn't say closed forever. And inside, SpongeBob stands tall, the new owner of the Krusty Krab. He spent the entire night cleaning, scrubbing, restoring. The tables gleam. The kitchen is spotless. The fryer hums with fresh oil, ready to sizzle. And as the clock strikes opening time, he flips the sign to open and waits. For a long, agonizing moment, nothing happens. Then the first customer steps inside. Then another. Then another. And before SpongeBob can even process it, the Krusty Krab is alive again. The scent of fresh Krabby Patties fills the air. Customers rush in, taking their seats, placing their orders, laughing like nothing ever changed. Because that's the thing about Bikini Bottom. It moves on. But today, it doesn't move on by forgetting Mr. Krabs. It moves on by keeping his legacy alive. Even Squidward comes back, reluctantly of course. He drags himself behind the register, rolling his eyes at the rush of customers. I can't believe I let you rope me into this again. SpongeBob just grins. Welcome home, Squidward. And Plankton across the street is smiling. Guess I'll just have to try stealing the formula again. And just like that, things are back to the way they should be. Mr. Krabs' story is over, but Bikini Bottom is full of possibilities. What if Squidward actually became famous? What if Plankton actually stole the formula? What happens next? You decide. Let me know in the comments what if story you want to see next, and I'll make it happen. You want to see next, and